I think this is one thing that I'm getting really tired of seeing about emo progressives. As many of my friends who are people of color and not drinking the kool-aid of Glenn Greenwald call a lot of people who found themselves at Occupy Boston who would have totally had a different view on Greenwald and Snowden had the movement been able to be successful. And it hasn't been successful because it was just a bunch of elitist white folks who wanted their own projects and their own purposes promoted and whatnot, and get seen, and as if there was no one out there already trying to advocate and change the world. I think that some of those people who have gone out and tried to do certain projects come from certain backgrounds, have a lot of white privilege, and didn't really want to work with others, thought that they were failures. But some of the reasons why certain projects and campaigns that are for change and for equality haven't succeeded is because the same people who went to Occupy to change things were part of the problem and are in denial. Someone just posted how someone matched a $20,000 donation to defend someone named Barrett Brown, who I guess is a whistleblower. And what I say is, shame on you. We're in a very serious situation in this country, in this sequester. We have the bottom 2 to 3%, many of whom are people of color and extreme poverty and disenfranchised individuals of all colors facing serious cuts in programs. You have homeless services getting cut, places where these services are pretty much non-existent, and what services that are provided aren't that great. And then you have a lot of these programs that are for federal housing getting, families at risk of losing housing or temporary housing, and you sit there and raise money for some elitist white privileged idiot to defend them. How are you any better than the people you are against, that you rail against for elitism? How are you any better when you sit there and put money towards a whistleblower who may or may not have broken a law? And because you don't like who the president is, doesn't mean you're right. Because in the background of some of this vitriol hate, and this new risen hate and distrust of Obama, is this white privilege, where a lot of white individuals who just love to sit around smoking their weed and munching on the afternoon and not really working towards that degree because they just don't have to work for it that hard because mommy and daddy are paying for college, because the first black president didn't legalize weed You gotta, like, become this racist in denial because you didn't get what you wanted. And you're drinking the Kool-Aid, believing everything that Glenn Greenwald is telling you. When, for someone, I mean, there are people who know much more about him than I do in his involvement in certain political groups and special interest groups. But for someone to sit there and say that they've left America because they don't support, his love for his partner, I mean, state after state after state, and even our own president has supported equal rights for the LGBTQ communities and for marriage equality, or equal benefits for those with partners, in whether they're married, straight, gay, transgender. I think they're working on that. It takes time, just as it's taken time with marriage equality for those who are homosexual. You're expecting a miracle if you think that it's going to happen tomorrow. But I feel like people of color are forgetting the white privilege also in the LGBTQ community, because, as we all know, racism, when it comes to certain aspects in life, is very hard to avoid, just as sexism is. We know women make 76 cents on the dollar to a man, and it's a little bit less. I think it's like 68 cents on the dollar for a woman of color to a man. But anyways, someone knows those facts better than me. But I think we need to address racism in the LGBTQ community. And back to my original outrage is that the homeless there are a lot of white people that are homeless. No doubt about it. And they actually do get underserved. If you look up Google on homelessness in the U.S., they do get underserved. And the statistics actually say that African Americans get overserved. You can interpret it any way you want. It's a lot of it has to do with services and how they're geared. But the group that gets seriously underserved is Asian Americans. We really need to address homelessness if we want to fix this country. The root causes of homelessness, and the fact that 24% of homeless youth are aged out of the foster care system. I think that's right. And a good many of the homeless youth are of the LGBTQ community, and there's still an overwhelming amount of people who have mental health problems that are homeless. There's a lot of people who are homeless that are new parolees from prison. Depending on their crime, depends on their whether or not they'll ever get out of homelessness. And that's for another discussion. There are a lot of families. 39% of the homeless in this country are under the age of 18. So I think these emoprogs who want to sit here, raise money for these white whistleblowers who are lazy little fuckers as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not talking about people who go and reveal things in the social justice areas, I'm talking about people who are like Edward Snowden, who is not a hero. And it just sounds like he got played by Greenwald and found an elaborate way to break up with his girlfriend. So, shame on you, emoprogs, and you pretend activists for raising money for someone with privilege while there are still starving people in this country without housing.